Hey everybody, Dave here. Hope you're having an awesome day. So I have a build, it is done, but I can't post it yet because it is a custom toy that I made for my sister for Christmas, and so I'm going to have to post that after Christmas. So I thought what I'll do this week is, I've had a lot of people on YouTube asking like, what glue are you using? What paint are you using? So I thought I'm going to do a quick video on the tools that I use and the materials that I use, and I think it's actually a really good starter kit for a beginner. So come on, let's go talk about it. Okay, so let's start with cutting. So if you're doing some little kit bashing, you're definitely going to need an X-Acto knife, and I'm guessing most people have this, but if you don't and you're wanting to get into it, you'll definitely need to get one of these, two of these. I have like, I don't know how many of them. You just kind of accrue them over time. So definitely get one of these, but also get yourself an extra little batch of additional blades. The tips of these are notorious for chipping off. The blades get dull pretty fast, and it can get kind of frustrating if you're trying to work on something and you're working with dull blades. So don't be cheap with these. I am cheap, but I am not cheap with my blades, because if they're dull, it is not fun to work with. So don't be cheap with blades. I have also recently just purchased this little miter box and this little like craft saw, and this has been a really huge help for me. I use it for things like cutting a piece of polystyrene. I used to just like take the knife and try and roll it, and you can snap it, and that does work, but this is actually pretty nice because you can get a precise mark, put it in there. It has a little lip, so I normally pull it to the edge of my table, but you can go in there and get really nice clean cuts. Works really nice with small wood pieces as well. So this is maybe not necessarily exactly beginner. You're probably fine with just an X-Acto blade, but as you get going, and if you see you might have a need for this, they're not that expensive. One other quick tip when you're using X-Acto blades, for cutting, you'll definitely want to use a metal ruler. So be sure to grab yourself a metal ruler. I would recommend I would say never use a plastic ruler, because what can happen with a plastic ruler is as you're cutting, it can actually catch in the plastic and go whoosh. And I know this from experience because I was cutting and I actually sliced the whole tip of my finger off here, and it shot blood about 8 feet across the room. So that was not fun. And it didn't hurt because it happened so fast, but afterwards it was not fun. So make sure to use a metal ruler, not a plastic ruler. Sanding. Now, this can also be used for cutting. There's a whole bunch of other little bits that you can use, but I use this Dremel quite a bit. It is really nice, and I got myself the battery powered one, cordless, because for me my workspace is small and I found the cord was always in my way. The one downside to this is I don't have an additional battery, so this does tend to die. I wouldn't say fairly quick, but it dies in the most inopportune times. You're right in the middle of something that's like, and it's done. So you have to stop and recharge. So maybe stopping is not always a bad thing, but I do like the Dremel. And again, this is maybe not necessarily you have to have this as a beginner, but the more you work on the projects, this is a handy little tool. Along with sanding, get yourself a nice little collection of sandpaper. Just I probably the highest, the roughest I use is 150. This is like 320, I believe. And this is nice for if you've got some notches or something that you need to trim off. I'll use the knife and I'll trim off the bigger pieces, but then I'll come in here and again, probably 150 is the roughest I would ever use, but I'll sand that down, and then you go to like a 320 and sand that down, and I keep working my way down, and then I kind of finish with a 1200 wet sand, and this gives a really nice finish on plastics, almost like a polish. So this is a pretty great thing to have. So I would recommend getting a nice little collection of sandpaper. Okay, let's talk glue. Now, this is just my personal experience. I have tried using just regular old super glue you'd get at Home Depot or Walmart, and I just have never had luck with the regular super glue. So a friend put me on to this BSI, Instacure Plus, and there is a like a medium, a thin, and a heavier. I can't remember the exact terms, but there's like 3 versions of this. I found the medium to work great for me, and I use this almost solely for all of my work. The Instacure, you can buy this online. It's not super cheap, but it lasts for stinking ever. It's you just use so little of it. So BSI Instacure Plus medium is my go-to. That's the gap filling. And again, there's like heavy and thin or something like that. And I actually purchased a larger 2-ounce bottle, and I just refill into this bottle. So, and yeah, I did tip it over and glued something to it, so be careful. The medium also is pretty nice because if you do glue your fingers together on accident, it normally comes apart pretty easily, and I'm prone to doing that. I would also recommend, this is just me, again, a buddy put me onto this, the BSI Accelerator. This stuff is amazing. So what you do is you have to put the glue on, and normally you'll sit there and you'll hold it and maybe count to 30, and then you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, that might work. The accelerator, you hold it and you go and just kind of spray it on. You don't have to soak it, but you don't want to do it too light, and it actually helps cure the glue quite a bit faster. So that's also made by BSI. This stuff is available even at like Hobby Lobby and just big box hobby stores. This is one that I use sometimes if I'm using if I'm building a plastic model kit. The Tamiya extra thin cement. It's really nice because if you're holding let's say you're doing a cockpit of a plane or a wing of a plane, you can hold the wings together, and it has this little tiny brush, and you can literally just touch it, and it goes, and it seeps in and pulls it all together, and you can just hold it. And this actually, it essentially melts the material and then kind of bonds them together. So this is pretty nice. These little guys, I've had people asking me, and there's YouTube tutorials of people that make these custom out of Q-tips. I think Cut Transform Glue. I think he has a little tutorial on how he makes his custom ones out of Q-tips. They're easy enough to just go buy at Hobby Lobby. They're over in the where the model paint section is, at least locally for me. So, and they're not that expensive. So I went ahead and just bought a little bag of these for myself. Also with glue, a little bit of baking soda. When you're using this Instacure, you can fill a gap, and if you put baking soda and you just sprinkle it on there, it cures it instantly. Adam Savage actually has a little tutorial on how he did this. If I can find that, I'll put it in the link below. But this is really nice, and it makes an extra strong bond. So again, get yourself a little baking soda. And this is a little bit of an investment, but as a beginner and a new maker, I would definitely recommend this because it's worked really great for me. And I had a lot of struggles with glue. So there's glues. Okay, so as a beginner model maker or kit basher or toy builder or whatever you are, I highly recommend getting some Milli Putt. This is a 2-part epoxy, and you take even ratios, mix them together. It becomes this kind of a little bit hardened clay, or not hardened clay. It becomes a clay, and it hardens over time without having to bake it in the oven. Yeah, so there's the 2 parts there. This is great for if you want to fill screw holes, or if there's a weird little gap in the plastic toy that you don't want. You can putty this up and put it in there, and then once it dries, you can sand it. So this stuff has been really useful to me. I also have just started playing around with Magic Sculpt. It's essentially the same exact thing. It's a 2-part epoxy putty. You put them together. So yeah, it's really, I don't really have a preference one or the other. They kind of do the exact same thing. So I think something like this is really great for a beginner maker. You can actually even sculpt little shoes or little rocks, or whatever. If you need to sculpt a hand, you could sculpt a little hand or a little weapon or something. So it is actually like a clay that you could create things, or you could use it to fill little holes. So some Milliput. All right, so now we venture into paint. Now paint is very, very personal. I have used all kinds of paints, and again, I am super cheap, so I love to try and use like these little craft paints. They're anywhere from 50 cents to like $1.60. They're not that expensive. The problem with these paints is a lot of times they don't coat that well, and even though they're cheap, it can be kind of frustrating, and sometimes it's worth, as a beginner, to invest just a little bit extra money, and it makes your life so much easier. So I started using Citadel, and these are little paints for Warhammer characters. Now, I'm not really into Warhammer or miniatures. I don't do that necessarily, but these paints, they flow really nice, and they are really beautiful paints. So check out the Citadel. They are a little bit pricey. They're like $6 for a little pot, but again, it lasts a long time and it goes a long way. So check out the Citadel paints, or Tamiya. I have also enjoyed using these Tamiyas, and they go on pretty well. Now, something to mention is I primarily use acrylic based. I do have some enamel based, but I personally do not like using the enamel based. They dry really fast. You have to use thinners to clean them. I'm in a small room here. I don't really like to deal with the paint thinner and stuff. And so with acrylic paint, you don't have to use thinners. You can just use water, and it's pretty easy cleanup. So again, that's just a personal preference. I know model makers that love enamel paint and do amazing stuff with it. So you kind of have to just, as a beginner, fill it out yourself and see where you want to go with it. Also, this is like a yogurt container, a glass container, and this was some kind of chocolate mousse thing that my mom, well, not my mom, sorry, my wife got for us. And I'm like, ooh, I'm going to keep these containers. I love these little containers to just put some water in. I'll normally have two. So I'll have like my dirty, and then I'll have another clean water. So I can run the brush, get most of it out, and then run it one more time. And then have some paper towels, or I have like this old like rag that I can just wipe my brushes on. So keep some glass containers. They're pretty nice. And then brushes, I literally just buy like the cheapy brushes at Hobby Lobby in the pack that's like $4.99 or $7.99. You know, sometimes whenever they're on sale. I use flats quite a bit, and I do use these finer points quite a bit for doing some detail work. So there's people that invest in like really nice high-end brushes, and that's fine. Like if you're doing some super detailed work and you're familiar with them, but you don't really need to do that, especially as a beginner. Just get yourself some cheapy brushes and have fun with it. Washes. Oh, I love washes. So I use Citadel Nuln oil, Nuln, and this is a black wash. They also have a brown wash. This is a rust wash, so it's a Vallejo. You can put down just like a little bead, and it actually kind of dries up and gets a little crusty and looks like a little rust buildup. It's really great. Again, this stuff's a little pricey. So as a beginner, if you're like, I don't really want to invest in that, hold on, let me open this up here. You can also use Kiwi, the liquid shoe polish. It has kind of the little sponge top there. This works really good as well. So it's kind of almost just like this, but this is just easier for me to access and get to. So I actually have a video on this. Whoa! I did this Millennium Falcon using shoe polish, and just put it on there, and then a scrub sponge and clean it off. So I'll put a link for that video if you want to check that out. It's pretty simple, and it gives it so much depth and dimension. It makes it look really cool. So here's another little fun thing. I had this little, this is a AT, and it was just this like little gray plastic toy. So I did a wash over it, and it got all in the grooves and stuff, and I think it looks pretty great. So yeah, washes, are definitely a maker's friend. So when you're first starting to make stuff, definitely get yourself some washes. There's also videos. Um, Black Magic Craft, I think he has tutorials on how to make your own washes, not your own watches, your own washes. So check those out. If I can find that link, I'll put it below as well. Okay, for spray paints, I typically use Rust-Oleum primarily because it's really easy for me to get my hands on. I know there's other brands out there. Spray paints can run anywhere from like $4 to $8 or $9, just depending on some of the specialty stuffs. It can get even more expensive, but for me, normally this primer works great. It's easy to spray on. I can sand it. I do use a lot of the gloss white and flat white, black. I just use that a lot. And then matte and clear. Matte and gloss clear varnish. I like to use these quite a bit as well. And this is for when I'm doing some detail painting work, and once I'm all done, especially when I'm using the acrylic paints, I'll spray this just to seal everything in. So these are enamel spray paints, and sometimes I have struggles with them because I'm in Colorado, and like this week it's been really cold, and you actually go out, and if you're spraying when it's really cold, the paint will actually freeze in midair on the way to your project. So that is not a good thing. So I don't have a spray booth, so I have to do everything outside. So it kind of limits me in the wintertime. It's a little bit harder. So I may need to get a spray booth going. But I also have recently found this acrylic spray paint, and I haven't really used it on any major project yet. I just did a quick test run, and it seems to be pretty amazing. I don't know much about this, so let me know in the comments below if you have used this acrylic paint and it works better for you, especially on toys and plastic, than the traditional enamel spray paint. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on the acrylic spray paint. So that's it for the paints. Okay, so this last part can get me in trouble, so do this wisely, but start collecting junk. No, let's not call it junk. Let's call it supplies. Yeah, that's better. So keep your eye out at the thrift store, yard sales. Maybe just talk to your friends and be like, hey, do you got any old action figures? Because these are really great for doing, especially as a beginner. Here, okay, I have this Mario head. Don't know where the body is. It was probably in a thrift store bag. I could take this action figure, pop his head off, glue this on here, and just like that, I've got a pretty cool little action figure. Maybe I do some weathering on the jacket, or maybe I paint the jacket red to look like Mario. I don't know. It could be cool. So, but you have to start collecting and looking at things in a different way. Like, here's this lid. I don't know what it is, but it could be cool. Like, could that little spray nozzle become like a droid's like head and eye? Possibly. This was out of some mouthwash. But man, it looks like it's definitely some kind of turbine or rocket engine. So I really like that. Bottles. Like, this could be the body of a droid with some arms on it. you just start looking at things in a different way. At my work, they always have these in the electronic recycle bin, all these cables and stuff. So I snag them every once in a while. And cables are really great for even, like, let's pretend I wanted to turn her into a droid. I could drill a hole in here and run some cables from here over to here and up in there, and maybe across the legs you can do some cables. So I collect these things, and like old headphones. Like, who knows? That could be something with the rocket here, like some turbines coming off. I don't know. You got to just keep your eyes open for all kinds of goodies and junk, and start making cool stuff. So I hope this was helpful. Okay, so I know this is nothing earth-shattering, and people have done videos like this, so I know there's plenty out there. I just wanted to show you kind of what I use as my tools, and I hope that it's a help to you. There are so many great videos out there and so many wonderful makers that are willing to share the information that they know and have, and so I've done that myself personally through this journey of becoming a maker and just making things and having fun doing it. And my encouragement to you is the information's out there. So you have no excuses. Go try it and make something fun. And if it fails, that's okay. Fail forward. Try again. And the supplies, in the whole are not that expensive because they last quite a long time. So I hope you go make something awesome and have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And as always, it is a great day to be a toy nerd. Have a great one.